Hello and welcome to the 4th grade channel of Sun Devil Learning Labs. I am Mrs. Khan and let's get started. Alright, so our topic for today's lesson is a continuation of context clues, but today we're going to go over synonyms and definitions. Alright, so let's look at our objective. Our objective is I can determine the meaning of words and phrases within a text using my knowledge of synonyms and definitions as context clues. All right, I know it's a lot of words, but I want you to really think about it. If you want to hit pause and read it to yourself out loud, you can do that. But what I really want you to do is take a moment to try to establish that as your learning goal for today. All right? All right, so let's continue. All right, so let's review what Ms. Holman went over with you, all right? She went over what context clues are, right? Context clues are words or groups of words that give clues about the meaning of an unknown word, right? So if we read something and we see a word that we're not familiar with or we've never seen before, so we don't know what it means, we're going to look for our context clues, all right? And context clues can be used in a sentence or a paragraph to determine the meaning of an unknown word in any type of reading passage, all right? So if you think about it, as readers, we use context clues to determine the meaning of an unknown word, right? That's all that means. Right, so thinking about our context clues are pieces of information in a text that helps readers understand words and details. All right. So if we pull it apart, context is the text around a new word, and the clues are the pieces of information that help us understand something, right? Thinking about our context clues, there are different types, all right? And when we think about those different types, think of the word ideas, all right? I-D-E-A-S, right? I is for inference, which is the meaning is not given, so you must use the text clues. D is definition. We're going to go over that one today. The meaning of the word is explained in the sentence. E, example. An example of the word is in the sentence or nearby sentences, right? A is for antonym. A word with opposite meaning is used in the sentence or nearby sentences. Right? You're going to go over that one tomorrow. And S is for synonym. Words with similar meaning is used in the sentence or nearby sentences, right? We're going to go over definition and synonym together because they're very similar, all right? So, synonym and definition, that's what we're going to talk about today, all right? Synonym. A synonym is a word or a phrase that means exactly or nearly the same as another word or phrase in the same language, right? For example, shut is a synonym of close, right? So if I say shut your eyes, it's the same thing as saying close your eyes, right? Or shut the door or close the door, right? And sometimes synonyms or definitions are used in writing to help the reader understand difficult or unknown words, right? We're going to see that in our examples. And in these cases, this is what we're going to look for, right? You might see a comma after the unknown word, followed by a synonym or a short definition of that word, all right? So let's look at some examples, right? I have 4 here. Our first one says, sometimes studying for math tests feels futile or useless because my scores never seem to improve that much. All right? Think about that. What was the thing that we just talked about, right? Our clue is going to be after a comma, right? And if we look at it, we have our word that we're looking for, the meaning of is futile, right? It's followed by a comma, and then it says, or useless, right? That's our clue for what it means. That is our synonym, all right? So let's look at our second one. I still don't think it's fair that my brother gets to stay up later than me. I know it's hard for me to wake up in the morning, but I don't think that an earlier bedtime is a good solution or answer to that problem, right? So if we're looking for the meaning of the underlined word, which is solution, what is our meaning, right? We look for that comma that's followed by a synonym or definition, right? And solution means the same thing as answer, right? Right? Our third one, when you do the dishes, it is best to fully submerge or immerse the dishes in soapy hot water in order to get them clean. Same idea. We have our underlined word, comma, synonym, right? Submerge and immerse have a similar meaning. And our last one, if you are in a tall building during a tornado, locate the nearest interior enclosure or room to seek shelter, right? Enclosure is the word we don't know, and room is our synonym, all right? If you want to look over those a little more, go ahead and do that, hit pause, all right? So let's continue on. We are going to practice this, all right? What I want you to do first is I want you to draw out this graphic organizer on your paper, all right? It's pretty simple. You can even just fold your paper in half and write on the left side what your word is, and on your right side what your meaning is, all right? And then as we do this, I want you to think about how you know that that is the meaning of your word, all right? So go ahead and hit pause, draw out your graphic organizer. All right, so let's continue. You should have this graphic organizer written down. We're going to read this passage, all right? Look at our underlined words and then think through what they mean, right? How we're going to find their meaning, right? So let's read the passage. Can you imagine what it would be like to learn English as a second language? There are so many nuances or subtle differences in the definitions of English words. With such small differences in the meaning of words, finding just the right word can be arduous or difficult for native English speakers. All right, if you want to read through that again, go ahead and hit pause and do that. All right, so let's look at the notes that I have, all right? So what I have is, as I was reading this, we came across the words nuances. Do we know the meaning of that word? Maybe not. And then subtle, and then arduous, all right? So when I looked at this and I read it, I wondered to myself, nuances means, and it has our clue right after it, right? Has the comma and then a similar meaning, right? Subtle differences. So that's what I have at the top. It says nuances, and the meaning that I have is subtle differences. But then subtle was an underlined word too. Do we know the meaning of subtle? When we keep reading it, the next sentence says, with such small differences in the meanings of words, right? If nuances meant subtle differences, and then in the next sentence it says small differences, they mean the same thing, right? So in my thought process, I went from nuances, right, to subtle differences. And then to understand what subtle meant, I found small differences. So subtle and small mean the same thing, right? It's a little bit of a puzzle to put together, right? And our last one, back to our normal clue, arduous is followed by a comma and then a synonym, all right? So arduous has the same meaning as difficult, all right? You can think through that some more. Go ahead and do that. I'm going to show you my completed graphic organizer right here, right? So our underlined words were nuances, subtle, and arduous, right? And my meanings that I found were, for nuances, it meant subtle or small differences, right? Subtle meant small. That's why I have them in the first one together. And arduous meant difficult, all right? If you want to go back and read through that passage and try to figure out a little more, better understand it, go ahead and do that, all right? But we are going to try it for yourself, all right? It's a little bit more in-depth information today, but it's something that I think you guys can figure out and do really, really quickly, right? All right, so first, draw out your graphic organizer. All right. If you notice, it looks almost exactly the same as our first one, except this time we have 5 empty spaces, right? That's because we're going to have 5 words to find the meaning of. So if you want, you can use the exact same piece of paper and just draw a line underneath your last words, all right? So have word in 5 spaces, meaning in 5 spaces, all right? Go ahead and hit pause, draw that out. All right, so let's continue on. All right, what I want you to do is you're going to read each sentence. You're going to have 5 sentences because you're finding 5 words, right? And then you're going to decide what the meaning of the underlined word is, just like when we practiced before, right? All right, so let's look at our sentences. All right, I will read through all 5 sentences. If you want to pause at any point just to read them, you can go ahead and do that. All right, so sentence number 1 says, if you take candy into your classroom, you may want to conceal or hide it by placing it between your notebooks. All right, the word we're looking for is the underlined and yellow word that is conceal, right? Number 2, I didn't mean to spoil or ruin the surprise party for my sister. It was an accident. Right? The word we're looking for is spoil. It's underlined and yellow. Number 3, the zookeeper wants to demonstrate or show us how to feed the baby elephants in the nursery. Our underlined word is demonstrate, and it's in yellow. All right, number 4, it is essential or necessary to keep your hands and feet to yourself while riding the roller coaster at the amusement park. All right, the word we're looking for is underlined and in yellow, and it's essential. And number 5, there is an obvious or noticeable smell of smoke coming from the restaurant's kitchen area. And the word we're looking for is underlined in yellow, and the word is obvious. All right, go ahead and hit pause. Look for the meaning of your underlined and yellow words in each sentence and put it in your graphic organizer. All right, go ahead and hit pause now. All right, so let's continue. Okay, so at this point, if you want to skip ahead to our review section, you can go ahead and do that. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to do a little bit of extra practice, all right? You can also come back to this point to do later, all right? So what I want you to do is draw your graphic organizer, all right? All right, so here's your graphic organizer. I know it looks like a lot. There are 8 spaces, and that's because there are 8 sentences, and in each sentence there's a word, right? You have 8 words that you're going to find the meaning for. You don't have to do all of them right now. You can just pick which ones you want to do, all right? So go ahead and draw that out, exact same thing you did before. You can even use your same piece of paper. All right, so hit pause and draw that. All right, so let's continue on. All right, so in this extra practice, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to read each sentence and then decide what the meaning of the underlined word is. All right, you're going to write it all in your graphic organizer. So let's look at our sentences. Here are our sentences. Remember, we're looking for the meaning of the underlined word, all right? So our first sentence says, Charlie's care for others is the precise or exact reason that he'd be great at buddying up with students who are new to the school. 2, sometimes when I feel irritable or in a bad mood, I ask my family to leave me alone for a little while so I can relax and unwind. 3, we are supposed to rehearse or practice for the holiday concert right after school in the cafeteria. 4, my parents got a small drone for me and it broke within 2 days. They sent it back and ordered a much more durable one that won't break so easily. All right, if you want to pick any of those to do, hit pause and do that. Let's look at our last 4 sentences. 5, the bakery down the street uses a special technique or approach to decorating their cakes. They have a new technology that allows them to print edible pictures made of frosting on their cakes. 6. There is a small compartment or space in my backpack that is the perfect size to store my vocabulary flashcards for reading and science. 7. I was happy when the storm ended because the puddles of rainwater glistened and sparkled in the sunshine. 8. Usually, the ice cream shop only has a few flavors of ice cream, but this time they have a huge variety. There are so many flavors that I'm not even sure what I want. All right, go ahead and hit pause. Pick which ones you want to do out of that. All right, so let's continue on. All right, so we are going to do a little bit of a test. All right, we're going to review what we went over today, what we talked about, and what we practiced. All right, so let's look at our review. So what I want you to do is you're going to read the sentence and then decide the meaning for the underlined word, just like we've been doing this whole time for the lesson. All right, so your first sentence is, we have to be really careful with the box of dishes because they are fragile and can break easily. All right, and our second sentence is, the principal asked me to document or record all instances of bullying in my class. Okay, so let's look at our possible answers. For number 1, we have A, strong, B, full, C, likable, or D, delicate. All right, in our first sentence, we're looking for the meaning of fragile. All right, and our second set of answers is A, skip, B, right, C, understand, or D, ignore. All right, and the word that we're looking for the meaning of in the second sentence is document. Right, hit pause, reread the sentence if you need to, and then decide what word has the same meaning as our underlined word. All right, go ahead and hit pause now. All right, so let's check our answers. Our first answer for the sentence, we have to be really careful with the box of dishes because they are fragile and can break easily. All right, I have the answer of D, delicate. All right, because if something can break easily, because it says they are fragile and can break easily, that's the same thing as something being delicate. If you had a hard time with that one, what you could have done is gone through and eliminated the other answers, right? If something is strong, it can't break easily, right? If something is full, it doesn't make sense that it can break easily, right? If something is likable, it doesn't make sense at all that it can break easily, right? So that leaves us with delicate, all right? For our second answer, right, our sentence is, the principal asked me to document or record all instances of bullying in my class, right? The answer I got was B, right, all right? Because when you document or record something, you write down whatever information it is, right? All right, so hopefully you got that. If not, a little bit more practice, all right? So, all right, so that's the end of our lesson, all right? I know it was a little bit short, that's okay. If you want, you can go back and go over things. You can also really think about everything that we learned today and try to practice it in stuff that you have at home, right? All right, so let's wrap up. So today we learned how we can use synonyms and definitions to help us identify the meaning of an unknown word in a text or a sentence, right? We also learned to determine the meaning of words and phrases within a text using our knowledge of synonyms and definitions, right? And we learned what clues to look for within a text that are present through the use of synonyms and definitions, right? All right, so thank you for joining me. I hope you have an awesome rest of your day.